So just to add now to that future mindset, and now with the global energy markets shifting, to renewables or towards renewables, how can Nigeria leverage this divestment trend, to build a diversified energy portfolio, while maximizing the value of existing oil and gas resources?
Okay, I never really like to discuss oil and gas outside the larger macro economic stand we find ourselves. I'll say a few things.
Okay.
First thing I'll say is that the poorest people in the Western world would have been as miserable as the poorest people in this part of the world, like Nigeria, save for three things: great infrastructure, social safety nets, and cheap credits. Now, what I expect the government to do is do not necessarily jump on the wagon of energy transition, because we need a just energy transition. We cannot be energy poor and be transiting. What are you transiting from? We have a lot of oil and gas. Let's make the most. I think we should keep an eye on transition, but I think for now we should make the most out of what we have and build with those investments you see there. Build for the future. Begin to invest in renewables, solar. Have a richer energy mix. And we're rich. If you go to if you check solar radiation in the north and parts of
very high.
Very high. If you check hydro, reasonable. If you check, almost everything, but even we could do biogas. So I think for now, because natural gas is the bus stop, it's the energy transition bus stop before we finally get to where we're going with decarbonization. And really, even when you talk about decarbonization and net zero, people mistake these things, particularly net zero, to think that there won't be carbon emissions. No, net zero means the emissions that are taken away from the atmosphere, whether through carbon capture, sequestration, whatever it is, and what is brought to the atmosphere is the same. So if you are doing 50 whatever it is, you are taking that same 50 off. So we're not emitting more than what we are taking away from the atmosphere through technology. So for me, let's invest in technology that helps take away carbon.
So with an eye on the future and the global shift, are you saying that we should keep our investments or going for the oil and gas while we just continue to drive more of that renewable?
So the oil and gas, some of the money you plan, it's scenario planning. Some of that money you invest in future stuff like renewables. But while still keeping your eye on helping your people improve. Because there's always that energy trilemma. We're suffering from energy. We want to lead Africa, and we don't want to be left behind. But do we then move with the other part of the world who actually use oil and gas to develop? I'm pro-Trump when it comes to energy policy. Well, whilst I might not say drill, baby, drill, like a Trump would say, but if you have it, use it. Do we want to just seal off our oil and gas and
so are you
then
saying
jump
this,
at renewables?
Are you saying this justifies Trump's decision?
I think to a large extent, maybe Trump is extreme. I'm in between. I think that we should look at transition, but we shouldn't be too gung-ho on transition and disregard what we have in oil and gas. For example, I've never been a fan of Trudeau in Canada. Canada has huge oil and gas reserves, has huge, and he's just not letting them do what they want to do. And the country is suffering. It's a financing, amongst the G7 countries, probably 7th, right, overall in the indices. So I'm someone who believes that utilize all you've got, utilize your oil and gas. For example, in my home, I have like 20 kVA solar, and there's that good mix so that you can save money, right? And you can also show, but we still use public power supply, which is gas fired. So I think there should be a mix.
There should be a mix.
And I think it's only when the transition is just. And how can the transition be just? Energy poor countries like Nigeria, sadly. Now, when you say energy poor, I don't mean energy resources in the ground. Your ability to utilize energy. Because you can have something, you can't put crude oil in your car.
The ability to utilize the resources we have.
Exactly. You need to refine and you need to add value to it first to be able to
and refining has been a very major problem for
Nigeria. It's been a major problem. Gas too. Every now and then, until recently, you hear that there's no cooking gas. Or cooking gas prices have doubled or tripled because logistics problems bringing it from Europe or elsewhere. But if you refine what you have, if you process what you have, then you can use it and you can be first self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Remember, when you talk about energy security, look at it from two perspectives. Security of energy supply and security of energy demand. Security of energy supply is, do you have that supply? It's not whether you have crude oil. If you have crude oil and you can't refine it, you may as well not have crude oil. You end up selling it and buying the finished product more than what you made from
which is
from
what we have
selling
been
your
doing
crude.
over the years.
If it's the same thing with gas, you can't process your gas. You don't have LNG, you don't have CNG, you don't have LPG plants, processing plants. That means you're going to sell your natural gas. You're going to look at Henry Hub and all of that, do the dynamics, and bring in products which are going to be more expensive.